Stove goes dead at -67 degrees Celsius. Her cabin becomes a ticking timer. Can the heat trap beat this storm? She finds the ash pan cold and empty, no ember, no mercy at all. Is the flue choking the draw now? Ice crust at the pipe seam hints at a hidden block. One wrong fix could flood the room with smoke. Dry tinder is scarce, every shaving matters in this cold, no kidding. What if the first spark fails? She splits frosted logs to reach a dry heartwood core, fast. Can that small fuel buy enough time? Flat stones line up behind the stove to bounce heat back toward her. Will the trap work without flame? A board comes from under the bunk, risky so close to fire. Can it reflect warmth without scorching? Reflector set, vent gap left on purpose, the trap takes shape. Will airflow stay safe in gusts? She builds a tinder nest and braces for sparks in the dark. If it catches, can she keep it alive? Sparks bite, then fade. One tiny glow hangs on in the stove. Can she shelter it without choking the draw? She shields a tiny ember. One wrong door gap smothers it, or sends smoke back into the cold cabin. A hairline damper move gives the ember air, and a first flame licks up. Will the draw hold in this gust? The flame flutters as wind punches the wall, and she trims the gap again. Can it stay steady long enough? A small heartwood piece feeds the fire, kept low to save fuel. Will it build heat without choking air? Stones tighten into an arc, and the board angles safer. Warmth starts to bounce back. Will it be enough? She wedges the door sill to slow the draft, but leaves a breathing slit. Can heat rise without smoke? A blanket comes down for a tighter sleeping zone. One wrong hang could trap suit. Where is the safe gap? She hangs a sloped canopy, open to the stove and gapped at the top. Will warmth pool without danger? She tests the pull with ash and tiny damper shifts, listening hard. If it reverses, what happens next? Bedding and a dog pad settle into the warm pocket as coals begin to form. Can this hold until morning? She pulls 2 dry cords from the stash. One wrong pick, and the coals die before first light arrives. She tweaks the damper by a hair. Too tight smothers, too open bleeds heat straight into the storm. Stones in the board shift by millimeters. The trap can warm the bed, or scorch and fail fast tonight. She builds a drying perch for damp wood, and if it smokes later, the canopy turns into a real hazard. She seals the window seam halfway, stop the drift, yet keep air moving so smoke never pools inside. She lifts the canopy edge to clear flow. One gust flip could drive backdraft sting across the room. She scrapes ice from the pipe joint. A hidden choke would starve the fire exactly when it is needed. A thicker split rides the coal edge. If it catches, a coal bed forms. If not, the last fuel fades out. She folds bedding into a warm pocket. Comfort rises, but condensation drip still threatens the coals. She banks the coals and frees the latch. The cabin holds for now, but the storm still listens outside. Your glove feels the vent's thin breath. Seal it wrong and smoke could sink low under that canopy. Holes settle quiet. She feeds one dry core at the edge, hoping the draw stays clean in the gusts. Warm stones shift closer to the pocket, a tine gain. But will condensation steal it back tonight? Drips begin to bead. She hangs a cloth strip to steer water away before it snaps the fire cold. She builds a soft door baffle, leaving a slit for air. Can it cut drift without killing the draft? The husky's paws are brushed dry and the pad thickened. Comfort rises, yet fuel keeps shrinking. Damp splits rotate on the perch and steam whispers. Will they dry clean or smoke out the cabin? An ash pinch lifts straight up. She trims the damper again. What happens when the wind lulls hard? She sets snow in a wooden cup by a warm stone. Will the first melt appear before the coals fade? She settles into the pocket, listening to roof hiss. The trap holds, but for how many hours more? She checks the canopy gap with a glove. If air stalls, smoke can sink, and heat turns risky fast. A thin, wet sheen appears at the cup's bottom. It is water, but barely. Can the coals last longer? The coal bank dims. She opens the gap a touch, waiting for a brighter response before spending more fuel. Ash rise clean. She stops touching the damper. Overtuning now could flip the draw when the wind drops. Once split finally dries, she shaves a few chips as insurance. If coals die, those chips buy a second chance. She waits for coals to pulse, then sets the dry split at the edge. Smother it, and everything goes cold. The cup finally shows more water, and she nudges the warm stone closer. Can the pocket gain without choking air? A guest snaps the baffle. She pins it and clears the slit again. If that vent freezes, smoke has nowhere to go. The split chars clean and coals brighten. She refuses to stir. Stability matters more than speed in this coal. A small pool of melt finally moves in the cup. The heat trap holds, but the storm can still shift again. The cupful finally holds liquid. She pins it by the warm stone, praying the coals stay alive till dawn. The split is now char. She holds the micro gap and listens. One wrong move can snuff the last coals. She grabs the driest split and keeps her shaved chips close. If the coals fail now, there is no margin. She sets the driest split on weak coals. It must catch slowly, or the cabin's heat trap becomes dead weight. Ash wobbles sideways for a beat. She trims the damper. If the draw flips, smoke can sink into the pocket. The melt pool grows enough to slosh. She turns the warm stone toward it, trying to steal another ounce from snow. The door starts to pack with snow. She clears the latch again. If the exit seals, the cabin becomes a trap. Orange lines creep along the split. It finally catches. She freezes her hands. Stir now and the draw could flip. The melt pool is finally real. She adds snow at the edges. Too much cools it, too little wastes the heat. The cabin steadies for now. Cup and coals both hold. But the next wind shift could undo everything in seconds. Breath haze climbs to the top gap. If it stalls, smoke could pool low and steal the pocket's heat fast. Coals thin to a dull eye. Her chip bundle is the last boost. Will it wake the split without smoke? Condensation thickens on the canopy edge. One frozen drip can fall wrong and kill heat at the worst time. The husky shifts and shivers. She slides a warm stone nearer. Does comfort cost precious coals tonight? A sudden lull tugs the draw sideways. She opens the slit a hair. Can airflow stay safe when wind flips? Snow packs the threshold again. She frees the latch and seam. If the door seals, escape becomes work. A faint smoke bite returns. She steers the ceiling gap line. Will the trap vent clean or turn dangerous? Fuel is nearly gone. She banks heat into stones. Can stored warmth outlast a stove that may fail soon? Meltwater grows but chills fast. She nests the cup deeper. How much can one stone buy before dawn? The storm hushes for a moment. She checks vents, coals, and dog. What will daylight reveal outside? The storm hushes. She cracks the latch, testing drift and draw. One bad lull could push smoke back. Ash wobbles at the stove mouth. She trims the damper and saves chips, hoping the coals can answer. The draw collapses, smoke bites low, and she shuts the stove. Now the heat trap must do the job. With coals dying, she shifts stones into the pocket ring. The cabin holds. Can it hold long enough? No fire glow now. She renests water and moves bedding closer. Every inch of warmth has a price. A faint pre-dawn blue leaks in. She packs tinder and tools, ready to fix the vent before restart. She clears the threshold seam again, keeping the door alive. If it freezes shut, daylight means nothing. She builds a twig brush and reaches for the pipe. One ice plug up there can end this whole shelter. The brush scrapes the pipe, soot and ice fall free. The draft returns. Now a tiny flame can breathe. Heat flickers again, water loosens in the cup. But the storm still waits outside, ready to steal it. A tiny flame returns, she melts more snow. But one bad draft could choke it out before first light. Ash lifts straighter now. She feeds a pencil-thick split, praying the flue stays clear through dawn. Condensation beads again. She reroutes the drip cloth, guarding the pocket before water refreezes. The door seam is buried. She tests the latch in the dark, weighing a risky dig-out before daylight. With fuel scarce, she shapes a drift scraper from scrap wood, small tool, big pans at daylight. She cracks the door and spindrift pours in. The cabin fights back, and she slams it shut fast again. Coals begin to form. She banks them low and checks every vent, because smoke loves calm weather. The cup finally sloshes. She nests it deep in bedding, saving water for the first step outside. Gray light creeps in. She packs tinder and chips tight, while the husky listens hard at the door. She opens the door into a wall of snow. The husky stiffens. Something out there changed overnight. A snow wall blocks the exit, and she cuts a notch for the door, racing the freeze at the seam. She works the door in short cycles, pushing snow out and sealing again. Spindrift punishes every mistake. The trench is barely knee-deep. She packs its walls to stop collapse before the wind fills it again. She feeds one thin split and checks the ash. The stove must stay alive while she breaks out to daylight. Her step out is a trench, not a doorway. She digs forward by inches, keeping the husky inside and safe. Outside is a white canyon. She scratches a groove to find the door again, if wind erases footprints. The trench is just wide enough, and she lets the husky out. No leash, no panics, only closed steps in whiteout light. Drift climbs nearly to the cabin's window line, and she keeps the groove visible so the way back stays real. She clears a pocket at the door seam and closes it clean. The trench stays, an escape route carved into dawn. Dawn arrives quieter, coals hold, water is real, and the dog rests. The cabin finally feels steady.